Hello my dears, welcome back to Let It Cook, the cooking channel. Today we're making something sweet again, a super fluffy and delicious lemon cake. For this we need flour, powdered sugar, soft butter, vanilla sugar, baking powder, salt, eggs, lemons, milk and lemon curd. Perfect for any children's birthday party. By the way, you can also make wonderful lemon muffins from the same recipe. Today I'm making a slightly different topping, but you can just use powdered sugar and lemon juice. Then it gets a bit hard and is easier to store. I'm putting a bit of lemon curd on top, that's the idea. Lemon juice with butter, if you will, and I just think it tastes a bit better. But I'll show you that in a moment. Okay, first the soft butter, I left it out for an hour so it's really nice and soft. The butter is now wonderfully yellow, as you can see. Now we'll beat it with the sugar until it's light and fluffy, so just let it mix and gradually add the sugar. And when it's really light and fluffy, that means there's air in the butter, and then the butter can absorb the eggs better. So now just let it mix for a bit. We've just added the sugar, now just add a small pinch of salt, like with every dessert. It just gives a nice balance. Afterwards, just scrape it together again and keep mixing until it's really, really nice and light and fluffy. So now you can see pretty well, I think, that it's really nice and light and fluffy. That means the butter has absorbed the air and can help bind the eggs a bit better for us. I've preheated the oven to 180 degrees and now we'll add the eggs one at a time. First, you see, I always add one egg first, wait until the mixture has absorbed it, and then add the next one. By the way, here's another myth. When you crack an egg, most people usually crack it on the edge of the bowl. Of course, you can do that, it works too, but try cracking it on a flat surface. That way, you'll have far fewer cracks in the eggshell, and a lot less eggshell will end up in your batter. So just try it at home, that way not so many pieces of shell will break off. Yeah, and then you won't have such a high risk of having them in your cake later. Now scrape down the sides again to make sure all the butter is really mixed in. You can already see it's just a little bit grainy now. That usually doesn't happen. If you have warm eggs, it becomes really homogeneous. That usually doesn't happen. And let it beat for a bit. The butter, I let it beat for about 3 or 4 minutes now. The fluffier the butter is, the better the egg is incorporated, and the nicer the mixture will turn out. Now, first of all, I always like to add the baking powder, and I spread it out a little right away. Yeah. So that it's really distributed throughout the dough. Then we add the homemade vanilla sugar. I always use the old vanilla pods, which I boil when making pudding, rinse them in water, and then put them in the sugar. Everywhere. So you can already see there are a lot of those black specks in there. That's because at some point I blend it in the mixer and then just sift it. This is the best vanilla sugar. You can skip the supermarket brands. Now we need the hot washed ingredient lemon, and we're going to add the lemon zest. A good amount I actually like to use, especially a lot when it comes to lemon cake. I also squeeze in the juice of a lemon. Avoid taking too much of the white part as it can become bitter. These are very small lemons, so with my sausage fingers, the second one or 1.5 is enough for the zest. Otherwise, it will be too intense for us. That already smells very lemony. Here. We're still having wonderful winter weather, so by the way, I have to say thank you now. Dear friends, many of you have donated a bit of money to me recently, which is great. I used all of it today for the new ingredients. Thank you so much for that. If anyone wants to do that again, here's a link for it, and there's also another link below. If you feel like it, you can support us a bit. Yes, that really helps our channel. As I said, all your donations go into the ingredients for the new videos, so once again, thank you very much. Quickly cut the lemon here along the edge so that the seeds stay inside the lemon. You already know this. Very special greetings go out to Anna, Enric and Cornelia. Thank you again. You were the 3 highest donations I received. But I have to say, Enric, you're crazy. 150 euros, we've never received that before. Sending greetings again, thank you. Now add the juice of 1 lemon and give it a quick stir. Okay, now add the flour. I used regular 405 flour, a baking flour. I made a bit of a mess here. Okay. And here I have a mixture with milk and cream. I still had a little bit left in the cup, as the recipe says, but now it's just milk. I didn't want to throw away the cream. You know me, I don't like to waste anything, so I added another 20 milliliters of cream, approximately, and now we'll stir that in here. Okay. Now go full throttle again for about a minute, okay? Now clean the edges one more time. I have a mold like this here now because of course I couldn't find mine again. I took it with me to some shoot and lost it. That's why I had to borrow the mold from Moritz, the neighbor. Maybe you've seen him. Thank you, Moritz. He said some batter always leaks out, so I lined it with parchment paper this time to be safe. I hope it works out. I'm not familiar with this pan yet, so it's possible that I have a bit too much batter now. That's just my pan. The recipe I have is for that. And since I always misplace my stuff, let's just see, it always works out like this. The pan should be a little more than half to 3/4 full. Because the baking powder will make it rise, I left a little extra space. You can see here that the baking powder made it rise even higher than the edge of the pan. That way, if the cake rises a bit, it will still stay inside the pan. Okay, and now we'll spread it in there evenly. Might be a little too much. If you have a regular standard loaf pan at home, they're usually a bit taller, so this recipe will fit perfectly. I'll just make another small one like this. A small baking mold like this. I still have some timbal molds, so I'll just bake another one in those so I don't have to waste anything. Today will be a bit of trial and error. Let's see how much it rises. I'll put a little more in the back, of course. Preheated to 180 degrees, I'm using top and bottom heat now. When baking, you should avoid using convection if possible because convection can move the dough around a bit too much. So top and bottom heat, in other words static heat, is always the better choice. Depending on the height and the size of the pan, the cake now needs about 40 to 50 minutes. I'll put mine in for 40 minutes now. Maybe you remember this from your grandmother. There's this wooden skewer test, which means after 40 minutes you stick a wooden skewer in the top and check if there are still moist crumbs sticking to it. If there are, you need to leave it in for another 5 minutes. If the skewer comes out clean, then it's fully baked. Just don't leave it in too long, otherwise it will get dry. Personally, I'm a fan of it being a little bit nice and moist, so that's why 43 minutes. There's the bell out there. Click on the bell below, then you'll get a notification when we upload a new video. Of course, I'll put it in the oven now and show you in a moment how it looks when it's fully baked. Then we'll put the glaze on top. I got the cake from, I already took it out half an hour ago. It actually rose a bit more. It always sinks back down as it cools, but I actually prefer that because it's better to put the glaze on when it's a bit cooler. Otherwise, everything just drips off. If you do it while it's boiling hot, everything will just run off. So put the powdered sugar in there, a bit of the lemon curd. It's in the supermarket by the jams, or you can make it yourself. So that's a bit annoying. I actually buy it sometimes too because I'm too lazy. And now just add a bit of lemon juice here until it really becomes a smooth mixture. And now when it's nicely mixed and nice and liquid, then you go ahead and pour it over here. That was really quite a lot. Also for those who are doing it up front now, like this, a little bit. Either spread it if you want. You can also cut a few small lemon fillets and put them on top as decoration. Yeah, if you want it like that, so the lemon is completely covered. So if, for example, this is too yellow for you and you prefer the glaze to be a bit whiter, you can just use an egg white instead of lemon juice under the powdered sugar, because then the mixture will whip up really white and it will be completely covered. If, for example, you want to write something on it for a kid's birthday or something like that with sugar writing, just use egg white. It will dry a bit for you too. Let's see if it runs down a bit everywhere. Nice. And I have to say, from all this batter mixing, that's my thing. It always reminds me of childhood, looking for lemons and just something awesome. I like that. Actually, I would of course let it cool down a bit before cutting it, and you usually have it with coffee and cake so you can prepare it nicely, but you want to see the inside too, right? Let's check inside to see if it turned out. Yes, wonderful, nice and moist. Mm, super delicious lemon cakes. Try it yourself, my dears. We'll see each other again soon. Bye, see you.